what's up? Red Panda Anthem. Red Panda, what's good?
I remember in 2007, I was in Midtown when the last big recession hit, driving to Norcross and remembering how fearful I was about when the recession was going to end. Tying into your last point, can you talk to us about the dangers of the economy in Georgia and how it would be impacted negatively if you don't win as governor, and some of the things your opponent plans to do and plans to cut if he wins?
So let's look back to what he did before Raphael Warnock, John Ossoff, and our Democrats in Congress sent billions of dollars to the state of Georgia. He slashed $1 billion from education. He cut the criminal justice reform programs, the recidivism programs, the diversion programs. He cut resources for education, for healthcare. His response to need is not to solve the problem, it's to blame the victim. He wants to pick your pockets instead of putting money in your pockets. Now, he likes to talk broadly about who he benefits, but if you look at the numbers, the people who were falling are still falling. The people who are holding on by their fingernails. And he refuses to invest in their success. Let's look at housing. Georgia has an affordable housing crisis. We're only the 8th largest state, but we are number 3 in eviction filings and number 4 in actual evictions. Wow. And this isn't just Atlanta, this is across the state. I was down in Thomasville and they wanted to talk about the eviction rate down there. So this is a statewide issue. Well, the governor's response is to spend $62 million on homelessness programs. He will not invest in actually building the 207,000 units of affordable housing that we need. He will not work with our local governments to let them right size rent and inclusionary zoning. And so the current governor does not believe it's his job to help Georgia. His job is to have the headlines, not to read the fine print. My mission is the fine print. And if we have a recession, if we have taken that $5 billion and just given it to the wealthy, then everybody else is going to pay for it, because that's what happens every single time. But if we keep that money, it's like making a balloon payment on your mortgage. We can put in a balloon payment for the state that helps build all of these things I'm talking about. So if something does happen, we've already built it into the budget. We're no longer paying extraordinary interest. We're just paying principal. That's what this could be used for. I want to do a balloon payment for Georgia so that if we get hit by a recession, our natural resources, the money we're going to make no matter what, will be enough to cover everything I'm talking about without raising taxes. But also we won't dip so low because we're suddenly seeing catastrophic effects on the poorest people, because all of us pay the bill. Poverty isn't free.
Yeah.
All of us pay for it. And I'm the only person with a plan to make sure we do enough upfront that when it hits, we're ready for it and we can all get through it.
Can you talk about the supplier diversity initiative that you're proposing?
Yeah. So part of the supplier diversity initiative is that the state spends billions of dollars every single year buying services. Right now, you'll hear some folks who can get the janitorial service, or they'll get hired to provide paper. I want to make sure we're also hiring lawyers, that we're hiring financiers, that we're hiring from every strata. But I also want to make certain it's not just certain departments. The Department of Aging has to buy something. Let's make sure they're buying from people who look like Georgia. When the Department of Behavioral Health has to hire, let's make certain when they are buying and purchasing, no matter which agency it is, they need to be looking at the diversity of their supply chain, especially DOT. DOT is going to get billions of dollars every year now because of the bipartisan infrastructure plan. Those billions of dollars right now are going 90% to majority-owned firms, not to minority-owned firms. These are billions of dollars that we helped bring here because we participated in these elections and we are half of this state. The same thing is true with the Infrastructure Reduction Act, the Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act is going to send billions to the state of Georgia. But right now, there's nothing to say that businesses of color, that Black businesses get any of those contracts. And the response from the governor is he'll look at it. Well, they've been looking at this for 40 years. They've never managed to do anything.
Yeah.
I say hire somebody who's actually proven she'll do the work.
Royalty indeed. Queen Stacey Abrams. When in January, when you won the seat, I'm interested in knowing, because I'm sure you have it planned out. What are the first 30 days look like? What initiatives are you putting in place right away? What are some things that you're going to overturn that you know are not going to work for the state anymore?
Number one, my first initiative is Medicaid expansion. Medicaid expansion is the single largest economic development program in Georgia history. If you think about Rivian, he's going to spend about $1.5 billion to build electric cars. And that's good. And that's going to create thousands of jobs. But it's going to be localized in Monroe County. It's going to be localized to those who can get jobs in that industry. If we expand Medicaid, we create 64,000 jobs across the state. And here's the way to think about it. The jobs are going where the people who don't have insurance are. So it's going to absolutely get to every part of the state. And it's going to get to the communities in the state that have not had access, because those are the folks who suddenly are going to have the health insurance they need to get mental health care, to get physical health care. And when those new doctors come in, they're going to need to go eat somewhere. So somebody who started their small restaurant, they're going to suddenly have customers. We're going to need pharmacists. We're going to need construction. Medicaid expansion is number one. Number two, I'm going to repeal criminal carry. We know that that law has made Georgia less safe, and particularly for Black men. I want you to all to think about what that law means. By removing that permit, that means if you get pulled over, you don't get the presumption that you have the right to carry that concealed weapon, and you can't pull out your permit to show them that it's yours. You are presumed guilty by and large if that happens. And that's the worry I have. But it's also true that we've got stories right now of people wandering down the street by our schools, open carrying weapons. We have removed the background checks that used to happen with private sales and gun sales. That's what that constitutional carry, which is a lie, what criminal carry did was strip away a background check that protected us from 11,000 people who shouldn't have had those weapons. Number three, I'm going to repeal the ban on abortion after 6 weeks. And this should matter to every person, whether you're a woman or not, because in the state of Georgia, women are now told you have to decide about your pregnancy before you know you're pregnant. And this has economic effects across the board. And in particular, Black women are most likely to die from maternal mortality issues than any other race. And it is worse in Georgia than it is in any other state. Wow. And Brian Kemp is refusing to act. In fact, he said he doesn't believe there should be exemptions for rape or incest. We have to understand that when a woman is forced to carry an unwanted pregnancy to term, the likelihood of her going into poverty increases, I think, by 40%. The likelihood of her being on food stamps within 4 years or within 5 years goes up dramatically. This has a real economic effect, but it also is costing us jobs. The gun law cost us $50 million because Music Midtown is not here in Georgia. I know Antoine Fuqua pulled a movie out of Georgia when the voting rights law came through. Think about all of the different films that won't come to Georgia because women are like, I'm not coming here because I don't know what's going to happen to me on a year-long shoot. We are risking a $4 billion industry. And for people who say, well, no, we're all set. We've got Perry Studios and we've got, the studio in Fayetteville. Let's remember, Georgia got the film industry by taking it from Michigan and from North Carolina when they got Republicans. Y'all may not be old enough to remember Dawson's Creek, but I remember when everything we saw on TV was filmed in North Carolina.
Absolutely.
What happened? They got a Republican governor who started doing very hardcore right-wing things, and the money and the business left. If we don't think it can leave Georgia, we're not paying attention.
I truly think you can be a linchpin for not only a change in Georgia, but throughout the United States of America. What are the three things we can do and our audience can do to support you to make sure that you win this fall?
Number one, talk about this conversation. There's a notion that there isn't enthusiasm. It's not that there's no enthusiasm. It's that people don't trust. We've had a long 6 years and people are they're exhausted. but I need folks to understand the importance of what a governor can do and how it can change the future of our state. And so number one, I need you to talk to your friends, your family about this race and about why this race matters. Number two, I need you to make a plan to vote. Don't think, oh yeah, I'm going to vote. Write it down, make a plan, because life happens.
Yeah.
And when life happens, I lose if y'all haven't made a plan. So make a plan to vote. And then number three, go to our website and sign up, be a volunteer. We can use all the help we can get, because part of it is reaching the people who don't know that they should be listening to this amazing podcast, who don't know that they have a chance to start their own business, who don't understand what their real opportunities could look like if there was a governor who saw them as opportunity and not as a burden. My mission is for every Georgian to thrive. And that's not a slogan. That's a mission statement. Everything I have done in my life is geared towards lifting our communities up. And so if you will sign up to work with our campaign, if you're an influencer, if you're a creative, if you are someone who has 4 minutes off and you want to make a few phone calls for us or knock some doors in your neighborhood, whatever it is, if you go to stacyabrams.com/volunteer, we can use you. We need your help because we can win this race. And this is the last thing I'll say about it. You're going to see a lot in the polls. The polls are based on the last election. They look at the model from what happened before. The way we win, the way I've won three different races, Biden's race, Warnock's race, Ossoff's race, is by thinking about what's possible. If business owners only ever did what was already done, we'd never have entrepreneurship.
True.
My mission is to think about what we can create. And we can create an electorate that is so electrified and so engaged that the numbers can't see them until we show up. And that's what I need you guys to help me do.
Thank you. It's been an honor and pleasure. When is the election day?
The election is on November 8th, but early voting starts on October 17th is the start of early voting. Election day is November 8th. Make a plan to vote as early as you can, and let's get this done.
Yeah, listen, if little baby's not available, you have our number. Give us a call.
We're there for you.
Thank you. I'm gonna remind y'all said that.
For sure. Well, thank you. Keep up the great work, and yes, feel free to come back whenever you would like.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Honor.
And thank you for what you all do. It truly matters.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Take care.
This that Red Panda Anthem. Ian, what's up? This that Red Panda Anthem. Red Panda, what's good? Red Panda Anthem. Whole clip going up. I know they can't stand it.